So I don't really make technical videos like the one that you're about to watch that often. And the main reason is because people like to be entertained more so than educated. And so a lot of times when you start getting into the technical stuff, people's eyes glaze over, they get bored, they shut down. And that's why I've stayed away from a lot of this type of content. But in talking with my mentorship students, as well as some people from my team, they brought up the point that if somebody can't sit through like one technical video to understand how something works in depth, then they have no business in starting a business. And they're probably not the kind of individual that's destined for any sort of success. And that really resonated with me because we're kind of in this culture of like TikTok brain rot where our attention spans are all getting shorter and shorter. But if you're watching this video, it means you're not that kind of person. So what we're going to do in this video is break down how AI marketing works. And to kick things off, I want to share a small little story from when I got started in the marketing space because I pissed a lot of people off and I also built a lot of strong relationships. What was happening is I was getting all these local businesses clients and I was helping them get more customers. Some of these local businesses, they would say, Bruno, I absolutely hate you. You've been a waste of money. This is terrible. We're not getting any results. And then I would do the same exact work for other businesses and they'd say, Bruno, you're the best thing that's ever happened to this business. Thank you so much. You've helped us grow so much. We've been able to hire more people, get more trucks, open up more locations, and we've been loving the results that we're getting. And the entire time I'd be doing the same exact work. And so I was curious. I was like, well, what's happening where some businesses are getting tremendous results and then some businesses aren't getting any results at all? And what I discovered was something that not a lot of marketers or even business owners focus on these days. And the easiest way to explain it is kind of like this. Imagine you have a bucket and the business owner is trying to fill that bucket with water. But the problem is that this bucket has a bunch of holes. But then instead of trying to fix the holes, what most business owners do is they try to put more water in the bucket and then they start getting frustrated, confused about why the bucket isn't filling up. And so now is when we're going to get a little bit technical because what the bucket is an analogy for is a sales pipeline. And so I'm going to pick any random business here, but understand that this applies to literally every single business and every single self-employed type of business out there. But for the sake of this example, let's just go with a gym because that's something that everybody kind of knows a gym. The way that we measure a sales pipeline or like we define like, hey, what is that bucket is let's say there's 100 people that are interested in a gym membership. After everything that is said and done, how many of those actually turn into customers? That is the conversion rate of the sales pipeline. So let's say we have 100 people that are interested and from those 100, 10 of them become customers. We have a 10% conversion rate. The problem is that it's not just step one, get customers interested, step two, make money. The problem is that there's all these little steps along the way, and that's where businesses start racking up all these small little holes that empty their bucket. And each little hole and each little step on its own, it's not enough to make or break a business, but when you stack all the leaks together, you end up with a very leaky bucket. And what AI marketing is doing is it's patching up all of those holes in that leaky bucket. And we're going to get a little bit more technical in just a second where I'm going to do a full sales pipeline breakdown to really give you even more specific examples. But the important thing to understand is the reason businesses are willing to invest so much money into AI softwares, AI agents, it's like on one hand, yes, it's because they get to save money on an employee cost. But on the other hand, it's because if they don't fix all of those holes in their bucket, that business owner is never going to get to the outcome that they want, which is a successful business. And to really put into perspective what that means, do you know what the number one cause of divorce is? It's finances. And so when a business is failing or it's struggling to grow or the business owner is operating with this very leaky bucket, that's a massive stress on them on a financial level, on a day-to-day basis, probably putting pressure on their marriage. They're never home. They're working 14 hours a day. They come home, they're stressed out. They don't have time for their kids. They don't have the emotional bandwidth for their partner. And really what's happening is they're running a failed business. It's just that in order for a business to fail, it takes time because that business owner is going to fight tooth and nail to keep the business afloat. They're going to take out a line of credit on their home. They're going to go get bank loans. They're going to max out their credit cards. They will absolutely destroy their lives before they let go of the business. And so that's kind of what's on the line. If somebody doesn't come along, educate the business owners that it's like, hey, you can't just dump more money into your marketing to try to fill up that bucket. We first have to take care of these little holes because that's what business owners try to do. They just try to buy more marketing, buy more vendors, run Facebook ads, hire SEOs, and none of it ever works because of the leaky bucket. But then you can come along, educate them, explain to them what's going on, and then use AI solutions to fix that bucket. And I know on the surface it sounds complicated, but once you get into the technology side of things, it's way easier than you'd imagine. But let's make things even more specific here. I'm going to pull up a document from the mentorship actually, where I do teach this to the students, and I'm going to share these little insider secrets with you. So every business pipeline, it's always going to start from where the customer's coming from, where the lead's coming from. And you have a couple of different places that local businesses tend to get customers from. So you're going to have meta ads. This includes Facebook. And then for those that don't know, Facebook also owns Instagram. They're all part of the Meta ecosystem. You have Google paid ads. So these fall in the category of LSA. You have PPC. And then you have MAP. We'll just call that under PPC, which is pay per click. You have SEO. You have social media content, organic. So like kind of like the stuff you see me do on Instagram. You have lead vendors. So there's all these companies out there that sell customers or sell data. They do lead generation in one form or another, and businesses go out there and pay for them. And then you have in-person events, so like having billboards, showrooms, networking, etc. But an example of like where we get leakiness from is number one, some businesses, they don't even track when a new customer is interested. So for example, we're dealing with customers in our business. We're getting like an email address, we're getting a phone number. That way we can market to them. Some businesses, they don't even capture that information, so they can't remarket to those customers. The problem there is that about only 20% of people are going to be making a buying decision within 30 days. And this is like plus or minus depending on the industry. But then there's another 40% of the pie that buys, but it takes them about 6 months. And so if they're not even gathering contact information like email or phone number, they don't have a way to do that, then they're already missing out on 40% of the marketing pie. And so that's an example of one leak. Leak number two is speed to lead. So little story with you guys. One of my first professional jobs is I worked at a bank. I was a mortgage loan originator. And because I was super young and I had no networking or professional experience at all, the first thing that I thought about is like, okay, let me go buy some leads. Let me go get people that are interested. And the first place that I went to was Zillow, because I don't know if you guys know this. You've probably gone real estate shopping at some point. But whenever you go to one of those real estate websites and you hit like, you give them your contact information, that gets sent out to somebody and they pay for your contact info. And so I had about 3K to my name. I dump it all into Zillow and I called my customer rep and I was like, hey, this is all my money. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm profitable with this? And they were like, Bruno, as soon as a lead comes in, you need to reach out to them within 10 seconds. If you can reach out to them within 10 seconds, your chances of turning that lead into a paying customer goes through the roof. That is what's known as speed to lead. Most companies that you interact with, even to this day, where you just go around, they do not have speed to lead campaigns, where if you go on their website, you fill out a form, sometimes it might take a couple hours for people to reach back out to you. That is what's known as speed to lead. And if we just fix that for our customers right at the top end of the funnel, we might increase their conversion rates by about 10%. And this is one of the biggest things. This also has an even bigger impact when we're talking about emergency niches. So for example, anything that's medical, if you're talking about electrical problems, emergency plumbing, emergency HVAC, flood restoration, anything that's an emergency and needs an answer right now, having a speed to lead campaign put in place for a client dramatically increases the conversion rates and helps them make way more money. And because you don't know much about AI marketing yet, like what is a speed to lead campaign? It's really simple. It's just a basic automation where it's not even AI really. It falls under the category of an automation where it's simpler than AI, but it's just the basic notion that as soon as that customer comes in, they're getting a text message, they're getting an email, just like, hey, it's Bruno from XYZ Plumbing. We just got your message about XYZ thing happening in your home right now. Stay glued to your phone because somebody's going to be giving you a call in the next 2 minutes. Just a simple text like that hooks way more customers in on the front end. And then number two, the next level of it is going to be nurture campaigns. And so let's take our old sales pipeline that we were talking about for the gym. If 100 people are interested and only 10 of them are turning into customers, what the heck is happening to the other 90%? They just need to be nurtured. Nobody's following up with them. Nobody's warming them up. Nobody's nurturing or staying in contact. And so the chances of them turning into a customer goes down tremendously. And so what can we do? We can have AI automatically do that nurturing process for us, where 30 minutes after somebody shows interest, we're following up, 24 hours, 72 hours later, 1 week later, and so forth and so forth. You've seen this all the time when you go to buy something online and you give them your email address and you're getting emails for the next 5 years. Why does that happen? Because that kind of stuff works. For e-commerce companies specifically, sometimes 15 to 20% of their revenue is going to come just from those emails that you're used to getting. And so if a business doesn't have that in place, that's a pretty big hole in their bucket. And another example is going to be missed calls. Now, if you've ever bought anything or called into any business, I'm sure you've experienced it where you call and nobody picks up the phone. At Black Swan Media, we work with some of the biggest companies in the country, and you would be shocked at how often people do not answer their phones. A typical client, when we're taking them on, they're going to be missing somewhere between 10 to 20% of the phone calls that are coming in, meaning they're missing 10 to 20% of the leads that are coming in right off the bat. And so if you remember that gym example that we were talking about, where let's say there's 100 people interested, what that gym doesn't see is maybe there's 150 people that were actually interested, but they failed to pick up their phones for 50 of them. So those people never even made it to the funnel. And you're probably thinking like, Bruno, there's no way it happens that often. There's no way businesses miss that many phone calls. But I want you to really think about it, where number one, you have after hours. Number two, if they have one receptionist and that receptionist is already busy, then nobody's picking up the phone. Number three, you have small businesses where let's say it's like 3 to 5 person remodeling company or whatever. If the owner is out on the job site and he's trying to get work done, chances are he's going to miss a couple of calls. And in his head, he thinks, well, I'm going to call the person back within 10 minutes, within 15 minutes, within 20 minutes. But that's way too long, because by then, what do people do? They just call the next company. And so we're barely into the sales pipeline here, but hopefully you're starting to already see how these small little things, they just start stacking up. And by the time everything is said and done, these businesses are just trying to dump more water into their bucket. But it's not that it's a leaky bucket, it's that there's just a hole at the bottom of the bucket. And so the next example, let's go into the next phase here, the appointment booking phase, where if you take any sort of business where you have to book an appointment to come in. So for example, think about dentists, doctors, personal training sessions, barbers, salons, med spas. Typically, those types of businesses are going to have somewhere between a 10 to 20% no-show rate, meaning somebody books an appointment and then they do not show up. Now, why is that so bad? It's bad because if that person that had booked that appointment maybe just got a couple reminders that, hey, they have an appointment coming up, they would have actually shown up. But instead, the business takes a loss on two fronts, where number one, imagine a dentist, if they have like an hour time slot and that's reserved for a patient and that patient doesn't show up, well, guess what? That time slot is still taken. That dentist is still paying for the electricity, the staff. And so they still have their operational expenses. So they lose there. But then number two, they lose out on the revenue that that patient would have brought as well. And what we can do is we can use AI to automatically follow up with customers and remind them of their appointment. If they need to reschedule, get them rescheduled. Because what happens is sometimes when people book appointments and they accidentally miss it, they just feel so guilty and so bad that they're embarrassed to go and book again or to call into that business. And so just by even giving somebody a reminder that like, hey, you have this appointment coming up, can you still make it, or would you need to reschedule? That starts recovering leads. That starts plugging in that leaky bucket. You have more examples where you have the sales phase when it comes to actually turn somebody from an appointment to an actual conversion. And you can't do this for every industry or every niche, but a lot of times there's all these different ways to recover lost customers. So for example, for some of my home improvement clients, when their people go out, they pitch, they quote, and the customer says, we really got to figure out the financing. We don't know how to handle this. Well, maybe my customer can run a small promotion a week later to just try to push them over the edge. Or for example, take my real estate and mortgage loan origination clients. If they have a customer who doesn't have the credit to either get a loan or buy a house, we can have an AI that automatically sends that customer to the right credit repair people, monitors them, and then as soon as their credit repair journey is over, sends them back to the loan originator or the real estate agent. And then number three is sometimes salespeople just fail to close. And there's a million reasons why. It totally depends on the industry, but typically speaking, you can have automated emails, automated text messaging, automated text messages going out to help recover some of those lost customers. Because typically speaking, when somebody has a problem and they don't buy the solution, the problem doesn't just magically go away, like it stays there. And so at some point or another, that individual is going to have to fix the problem, right? And then lastly, another example is going to be the post-sales phase, where a lot of business owners, they also stop marketing to customers once the customer actually buys. And for local businesses, that is one of the most dangerous things that they can do, because it cuts the amount of revenue that they can generate down by half. Why is that? Because after somebody buys, there's so many more ways for them to help the business, where number one, they can send over referrals, where about 15% of people are going to refer somebody if if a good job was done. And so if a business doesn't have an automatic way to get those referrals, they're essentially taking an invisible 15% loss. That's another hole in their bucket. And that's something that AI can go and automate. Number two is the process of getting reviews, where when you look on Google at any local businesses, everybody's really concerned about like, what's the reputation of this business like? And most businesses don't have an automated way to get those reviews and boost their reputation. And so they're always lagging behind the more established businesses rather than ever having a chance at getting ahead. Number three is you have additional purchases. So like and I'm going to keep using remodeling because I think it's also another easy one to understand. But for example, take a remodeling company. You go into somebody's house, you do their kitchen, but what happened to their bathroom? Did we ever look at the basement? How do we know that the kitchen is all that we need? What if 12 months down the road, now we're sending them an offer to help them out with their bathroom or their basement? And so it's very common for customers to buy multiple times. If take the real estate industry, for example, most people are going to make 2 to 3 real estate transactions over a 5-year period. So if a real estate agent is only concerned about transaction number one, and they're not marketing and following up to their customers, they're only getting 33 to 50% of the value that that customer can generate, meaning they're playing this business game but their bucket is filled with holes. And then another last little fun example is the case of emergency. So, for example, for a lot of our roofing clients, the second there's a hailstorm that happens in their area, you can bet that every customer is getting a text message saying, like, hey, we're offering a free roofing inspection. That way, the roofing company drums up business way faster than everyone else. Now, these are the problems, and AI solves these problems in so many different ways. That's really what the mentorship that I run is for, is teaching all these different AIs. But you have all the sorts of different options like AI voice agents that can handle phone calls, qualify customers, schedule appointments, follow up with them. You have AI text messaging, AI email marketing, and then also just giving business owners the tools that they need to properly track their data, automate their marketing. And what we're really doing is we're patching up all of those holes in their bucket so that when our clients add water to the bucket actually fills up. Because if they never take care of their holes, then their business is going to fail. It's just a matter of time. And that's why AI marketing matters so much. And to really hammer this home, I want to share a little bit of a personal story where also when I got started in the marketing space, I tried going into the plumbing space and I made this list of like 1,000 plumbers that I was going to go cold call and see if I can turn them into customers. And so I got this list. I started calling. I spent like 2 or 3 months just cold calling and going through the entire freaking list. I did get about 2 clients from it, but it made me hate cold calling. But the important thing isn't the 2 clients that I got; it's the 998 other businesses that I had spoken with. After every single call, I took a note about what happened, what did they say, why was it that I couldn't get them over the line, and I just left it at that. A couple years later, after I already had some team members, I already had experience, my company was already successful. I was going through and I found like one of my old laptops, and I was just going through the files, and I found that old file. And so I got one of my team members and I asked them like, "Hey, I want you to call these businesses and I want you to see what happened. Did they still need help with marketing?" And what ended up happening is out of that list of 1,000, less than, I want to say 80 of them were still in business. And all of the ones that had gone out of businesses were the ones that told me, we don't need any more marketing help. We don't need marketing. We have a good business. Everything's running smoothly. Why am I sharing that with you? The reason that I'm sharing this plumbing story with you is because if you do decide to become an AI marketer, understand that yes, it's about making people more money. It's about making businesses more successful, but it's also a little bit of a higher purpose than that. Because, like I shared earlier, when a business collapses, it's not a pretty sight. It's pretty catastrophic for everybody. It impacts families, it impacts the people working there, and so forth. And when a business succeeds, it also impacts everybody, makes everyone's life better. And I share that with you so that you can see that there is purpose in marketing because it's about creating a better outcome, not only for the business, but all of the people, the employees, the team members, the owners, their families, and building those strong relationships. And so, with that said, I hope you learned something.